The morning sun streamed through the wooden shutters of a cozy, charming house in Chiang Rai. Nira, a 27-year-old artist with a calm and thoughtful look in her eyes, stood in front of a full-length mirror. Her fingers brushed over the gold frame, a family heirloom that had been passed down for generations. Her late grandmother always said the mirror showed more than just reflections. It revealed truths. Nira's life was simple and small but carefully built. She painted for a living, selling her art to tourists at the weekend market. Her work was bright and detailed, but her heart carried a scar, a betrayal that left her cautious and closed off to love. Her quiet moment was interrupted when her best friend, Dao, walked in without knocking. Dao was everything Nira wasn't: outgoing, loud, and fiercely loyal. She flopped onto Nira's sofa, filling the room with her lively energy. "Still staring at that thing?" Dao teased, glancing at the mirror. "You act like it's going to talk to you someday." "Maybe it will," Nira replied with a small smile, half joking but also a little hopeful. Their conversation was cut short by a knock at the door. Nira opened it to find Cam, her nosy but kind neighbor, holding a tray of mango sticky rice. "Thought you might like a treat, and maybe some company," Cam said, her curious eyes darting toward Dao. "Thank you, Cam," Nira said politely as she placed the tray on the table. Cam lingered, clearly fishing for some gossip, but Dao quickly shooed her away with a sharp look. When the door shut, Dao smirked. "Your neighbor's totally into you." Nira rolled her eyes. "She's just being nice." Dao leaned in closer, her tone playful but serious. "You've got to let someone in someday, Nira. You can't keep hiding behind that mirror forever." Before Nira could answer, her phone buzzed. It was a text from her cousin Pim, inviting her to a family gathering later in the week. A gathering she wasn't looking forward to. Family meant love, but it also meant awkward questions she wasn't ready to answer. As Nira sighed and put her phone down, her eyes drifted back to the mirror. For a split second, it looked like the eyes staring back weren't hers. She blinked, and the moment was gone. "Maybe it's time for a fresh start," Dao said softly, her teasing replaced with a genuine tone. Nira didn't respond, but deep down, she wondered if Dao was right. Laughter and the sound of clinking dishes filled the air as Nira reached her aunt's traditional teakwood house. Sitting on a hill surrounded by lush green rice fields swaying in the afternoon sun, she felt a pang of nostalgia despite her nerves. Nira hesitated at the gate, adjusting the strap of her woven bag. Dao, as promised, stood by her side, her vibrant personality already drawing attention in the quiet countryside. "Come on, Nira. It's just your family. What's the worst that could happen?" Dao grinned and nudged her forward. Inside, familiar faces surrounded her. Her Aunt Suni, sharp-tongued but kind-hearted, greeted her with a dramatic sigh. "Nira, we have to drag you here to see us. Do you even remember who your cousins are anymore?" "Hi, Aunt Suni," Nira said with a small, reserved smile. Her cousins quickly swarmed her. Pim, the eldest, looked polished in her tailored silk dress. As a lawyer, she was known for being blunt. "Still painting, Nira? When are you going to get a real job?" Pim teased, though her tone had an edge. Before Nira could answer, Ing, the youngest cousin, chimed in with her bubbly enthusiasm. "I think it's amazing, Nira. You've always been so talented." Dao, never one to hold back, jumped in. "Nira doesn't need to prove herself. Her art sells and it's beautiful. Unlike your boring legal papers, Pim." The room burst into laughter, breaking the tension. Even Pim smirked a little, though she didn't say anything. As the evening went on, Nira found herself talking to relatives she hadn't seen in years. Her Uncle Chai, a quiet man who loved gardening, handed her a cup of herbal tea. "We've missed you, Nira," he said kindly, his voice warm and gentle, but not all the attention felt comforting. Her Aunt Malay, Suni's younger sister, sat at the far end of the room, occasionally glancing at Nira with a look that felt like pity. Malay was the family gossip, and Nira knew she was probably whispering about her quiet, single life. Just as Nira was starting to feel at ease, a voice called out from the doorway. "Sorry I'm late." Everyone turned to see Risa walk in. She was stunning, confident, poised, and carrying an air of mystery. Nira froze for a moment as their eyes met. There was something in Risa's gaze, a mix of curiosity and familiarity, that made her heart skip. Dao leaned closer and whispered, "Who's that?" "Risa," Nira said softly, almost to herself. And just like that, the mood of the gathering shifted. Nira could feel Risa's presence in the room like a quiet storm, pulling her in despite herself. Risa moved through the crowd effortlessly, greeting everyone warmly but keeping a certain distance. Her smile was polite but guarded, as if she didn't let anyone too close. When she finally walked over to Nira, the air seemed to shift. "Nira, right?" Risa asked, her voice calm and smooth, like a song. "It's been a while." Nira nodded, her heart racing for reasons she didn't understand. "Yes." Before Nira could think of anything else to say, Dao butted in. "She's an artist, you know. Her work is amazing. You should see it." Risa's eyes flicked back to Nira, a hint of interest lighting them up. "An artist? That explains the quiet intensity," she said with a small smile. Her words carried a subtle flirtation that made Nira's cheeks burn. Before the moment could go further, Aunt Malaye interrupted. "Risa, tell them about your big project." Risa turned away, breaking the moment. "Oh, it's nothing special," she said humbly. "Just working on a project to preserve traditional crafts with local artisans." "Nothing special?" Dao whispered to Nira, raising an eyebrow. "She's practically perfect." Nira didn't respond. She was still caught up in the way Risa had looked at her, like she could see something deeper. The rest of the evening passed in a blur for Nira. No matter where she went or who she spoke to, it seemed like Risa was always close by, chatting with Uncle Chai about gardening, or politely nodding along to Aunt Suni's dramatic stories. Somehow, though, Risa always ended up near Nira again. As the party wound down and people started leaving, Risa approached Nira once more. The room was quieter now, lit only by the warm glow of lanterns. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else," Risa said softly, her voice carrying just a hint of humor. Nira hesitated before answering. "I'm not great with crowds." "Neither am I," Risa admitted with a small, understanding smile. "But I'm glad I came tonight." "Why?" The word slipped out before Nira could stop it. Risa looked straight at her, her eyes steady and serious. "Because I got to see you again." The weight of those words settled between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Nira opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, Dao popped up out of nowhere. "Hey Nira, let's head out before Aunt Malaye starts another one of her stories." Nira glanced back at Risa, searching for something to say, but Risa just smiled. "Good night, Nira." As Dao dragged her to the car, Nira looked back one last time. Risa was still watching her, her gaze calm but intense, and it sent a shiver through Nira. On the drive home, Dao couldn't resist teasing. "She couldn't take her eyes off you, you know?" "Stop it," Nira muttered, though a small smile tugged at her lips. Later that night, as Nira lay in bed staring at the mirror in her room, she couldn't stop thinking about Risa. Her voice, her words, the way she looked at her. It all echoed in her mind, filling the quiet with possibilities. For the first time in a long time, Nira let herself wonder if she could let someone in again. The next morning, Nira sat by the window in her home studio, the golden light streaming in as she worked on a canvas. She tried to focus, but her thoughts kept drifting back to Risa, the way she spoke, the way she looked at her like she really saw her. A knock on the door snapped her out of her thoughts. Before she could answer, Dao barged in, holding 2 iced Thai teas. "Morning. I brought reinforcements," Dao announced, dropping into a chair like she owned the place. Nira sighed but couldn't help smiling. "Do you ever knock?" "Not when I'm here to save you," Dao said with a playful wink, leaning in with a mischievous smile. "So, about last night?" "There's nothing to talk about," Nira replied, though her cheeks turned pink. "Nothing? Come on, Nira. Risa couldn't take her eyes off you. And don't act like you weren't interested," Dao teased, half joking but with a knowing look. Nira set her brush down and spoke softly. "She's different." Dao's smile grew wider. "Different is good. Maybe that's exactly what you need. Before Nira could say more, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. It was a text from her cousin Pim. Risa asked for your number. I gave it to her. She's a great person. Don't mess this up. Nira's heart skipped a beat. She has my number, she said quietly. Perfect, Dao said, snatching the phone to read the message. Now we wait for her to text you. Or better yet, why don't you text her first? It's 2025. You can make the first move. But Nira wasn't sure. The pain from her past still lingered, like faint scars on her heart. Later that afternoon, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Risa. Hi, Nira. I hope I'm not bothering you, but I just wanted to say thank you for our talk last night. It was really nice. Maybe we could continue it over coffee sometime. Nira stared at the screen, her heart racing. Dao peeked over her shoulder and grinned. There's your answer. Say yes. With shaking fingers, Nira typed back, coffee sounds nice. When? The reply came almost immediately. Tomorrow afternoon? There's a quiet cafe by the river I think you'll like. For the rest of the day, Nira couldn't stop thinking about it. She stood in front of the mirror, looking at her reflection, wondering if she was ready. A small smile appeared on her face. Tomorrow, she whispered, her voice filled with a mix of hope and nervousness.